Imagine that the creator of the universe, the creator of all life, the one who has all power, all knowledge, and who is deeply concerned with you and desires for you to join him at his coffee table. At God's coffee table, we'll be sharing insights about God, the Bible, life's challenges, and we want to provide an answer for any questions, concerns, or thoughts that you may have. Prepare your hearts and minds as we take our seats at God's coffee table. Welcome to God's Coffee Table. I'm Pastor Ray, and this is God's Coffee Table. We're going to, the title of today's broadcast is More Than What Is Due. And we're going to continue on our, I don't want to say, well, how would I say this? Perspective of what is owed and what is given. What is owed in a marriage, what is owed in friendship, what is owed in a family, what is owed to God, and what does God owe us? And we're going to be looking at that to some degree. Last week we talked about marriage. We talked about a little bit about employers and employees, but not to any great detail. And the purpose of this is to understand that there are certain principles that are universal in relationships, whether it be a marriage relationship, whether it be a family relationship, whether it be a relationship between an employee and an employer, whether it be a relationship with friends. And in each situation, there are some things that are, I'm going to say, due or obligated. Like for instance, in marriage, we talked about that last week, and some of the things that are part of a marriage. And when you enter into marriage, you have now obligated yourself to these parts, which we're going to talk about. But first, before we do that, I want to introduce my guest panelist, and it's somebody that you guys are very familiar with. It's someone who I love very deeply, and it's my daughter, Jennifer.
Daughter.
Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
That's it?
I don't have too
That's all
much to
you
say
got?
today. We'll have to see what I owe you for this broadcast and what I provide freely of my own free will.
Alrighty. You can go that way. That's fine. Okay. I want to go back to marriage, and I want to talk about what is obligated in a marriage and what are the things that we give freely in our marriages that's above and beyond that which is obligated. And yet last week we identified two perspectives or two threads that are common in marriage, or that should be common in marriage. First of all, when you have a marriage, you have two individuals coming together, and you're saying, I'm not going to walk by myself anymore. I'm not going to be by myself anymore, and neither are you. We're going to come together as one. We're going to come together in a unified relationship that we call marriage. So there is the aspect of unity within the marriage, and what we're going to talk about a little bit today more is on the how do you develop a greater unity in your marriage. And we're going to be looking at that. We're also going to look at support. In a marriage, when you're saying you're coming together, you're saying that you're going to mutually support one another as well. And what does that mean when I say I'm going to support you or I'm going to undergird you? And how do you go about doing that? Because there's the other issue, if there is one, is that in a marriage, when you have two bodies coming together, sometimes prior to the union in the marriage ceremony, you have individuals who really didn't share their unique perspectives of what they feel a marriage should be. Like, what is the duties of a husband? What are the duties of the wife? How do we deviate, not deviate, but I can't think of the word, say that this is what we feel you should do, this is what I should do. The division of duties is what I put down on my paper. So we're going to be looking at these things, but the first aspect that I want to look at is unity. Okay, so when we say we're coming together in this marriage and I'm going to join myself to you, okay, in order to have a good union, there are certain principles that you need to apply, certain principles that I believe that you need to develop in that marriage. And the very first one, and I'm not going to talk about love in per se right now, because love is like the glue that binds. There should always be that love aspect of every marriage, and it comes in different forms and stuff like that. We could talk about that later. But the aspect of developing a united togetherness. Again, there are certain principles that we want, that I feel that are keen and that need to be developed. And one of the first ones is communication. Okay, can you talk to each other? And what is the importance of talking to each other? And because there are aspects where somebody doesn't feel that they're being heard, in a marriage, and that can cause resentment, that can cause anger, that can cause a shutdown of people, because it's like, you're not listening to me. You're hearing me, but you're not listening to me. I'm trying to tell you something that's important to me, and you are either disregarding it or you don't understand the significance of it.
Yeah.
So again, we're going to be looking at these things, and Jennifer and I are going to be talking about this aspect of it. We're going to be also looking at division of duties, and it's like, what is the division of duties? It's your duty to take out the garbage. It's your duty to cook. And it's like, really? So how do we deal with all of these different aspects of having a united front or a united relationship in this marriage, and how do we develop it more? So I don't know if you have any thoughts regarding communication first, or a division of duties, or whatever.
Communication's huge, and it's not just, it's being able to speak freely without, if I come to you and say that this is a problem for me, it shouldn't be me attacking you. This is this. And if it feels like in its attack, either the person's really being a jerk and attacking you, or you're taking something personally that maybe doesn't have to be. But that's a huge thing for me, is it has to be a basis of communication where we can talk about anything openly, because otherwise, what's the point if you can't speak on things and fix them without it turning into a fight or an argument, or just hurt feelings or shutting down or any of that?
As it just so happens, I had a situation, not personally, but I was a situation that was brought to my attention. And one of the things that I have learned a long time ago, and that I shared with this individual, was, and it goes exactly what you're talking about. And you said that you should be free to be able to say just about anything to anybody.
Not any way, but with the person you're in a relationship with, you can't just come out and
boom.
Yeah, no, you have to be respectful still. That's kind of like that's jumping the gun, but that to me is another owed thing. You owe each other that respect to speak kindly, even if it's a hard situation. But yes, you should be able to speak about anything to that person, I think.
Okay. That is true, but at the same time, I have a variation of that. If my freedom, and I feel like I could talk to Diane, my wife, in anything that I feel is pertinent, right? But if she has a particular, or let's not talk about her, but let's talk about, you have a situation where you want to say something to this person, but this person has an emotional, I don't want to say issue, but a weakness in this area. Mm-hmm. And you feel, well, you know what, you need to get over that. No, that's not using respect. That's not using courtesy. One of the things that a marriage should be, and this goes part of support as well, is that we are to protect our mates, our spouses, and protect them sometimes even from you.
True, but does that mean you don't address something at all?
No, it doesn't mean that you don't address it at all, but sometimes it means that you may have to wait.
Right, or do it in
a manner
proper
in which
time, proper setting.
Right, and in a manner in which you are building them up, not putting in a light at a weakness.
Right.
Let's say Joe and Mary are married, and Mary likes to go to movies and Joe doesn't. Something really stupid like that, right? And Mary wants to go to movies and Joe never wants to go. And she says, you don't listen to me. This is important to me. And he goes, it's just a movie. It doesn't mean nothing, right? Now it has become more of an I don't want to say an attack, but it's like that's insignificant.
You're belittling them in a way.
It's a belittling. It's also, it's like you are making a judgment for them on what is of value and what is not. And when you make a value judgment by your standards, it may not be their standards. And that's one of the things about communications is as you spend time together and you start learning the values and the morals and the ethics of the other person, you now are I want to say, I don't want to use the word obligated, but you are given knowledge and you have a responsibility is a better word, a responsibility to assure that, yes, you want to develop communications, but your responsibility is to make it in a manner in which is productive and not destructive.
Of course.
A lot of people don't do that though.
But that's also, that kind of goes leading into what is owed and what do you do to go above and beyond? Because going above and beyond would take in that extra care to say it carefully or to wait till the right time or to have it in your mind consciously that this is going to affect my partner when I talk about this, to do so gently or carefully. That to me, is that owed or is that going above and beyond? Because it's kind of a line on both.
I think communications is something that every marriage needs.
Oh, no. Communication is owed, but the
It's
way
owed.
you do it, I think,
Unity
can go
is
above.
owed, but communications is one of the ways we develop unity. Okay, communications can be owed. Some people are just not good communicators.
True.
And they have to learn for themselves how to communicate emotions, how to communicate affection, how to communicate issues that they may have, or just in just general life communications. There's times where you want to share something with this person, but they have no base of understanding by which you want to share. And they're like, oh, well, that's nice. Or they're looking at you and saying, well, I don't know anybody that you're talking about. I don't know the situation. And, but you're trying to share something, communicate with them, but it has no base.
Right.
So in communicating is sometimes finding a common ground as well. No?
No,
Yes, maybe.
I agree, but I have a hard one with this because I don't feel like you should have to constantly walk on eggshells around your significant other. You should constantly have to worry about saying the wrong thing at the wrong time because they're going to blow up or they're going to be upset. Again, that doesn't mean come at them any kind of way and say anything recklessly or carelessly and hurtfully.
Right.
But you shouldn't have to hold everything in and be afraid to speak either because who knows what's going to happen.
And if you hold it in, resentment comes.
It does.
And anger comes. And that builds toward division and not unity. Okay, so you have to find a way. And again, one of the things in order to have an open communications is to learn that person. Learn their likes, their dislikes, learn their emotional responses to situations, learn their weaknesses or their vulnerability to certain things.
Yeah.
And then when you have all of that and you put it in a proper context and you would do it with respect, with the appropriate timing and with the proper verbiage, where it doesn't seem like you're coming attack. It's like, honey, I want to talk to you. I got this situation. I need your opinion on this. Now you're communicating. Now you're sharing. Now that person is learning about you. You're learning about that person. And that unity starts to build a greater foundation. And the more of a foundation you have, the greater communications. The oneness and the unity develops even more so. So communication is a vital, vital thing. And I hear as a pastor many times when I'm dealing with couples and stuff like that, is that we don't talk, or he doesn't communicate, or she doesn't communicate, and one of the things that I do is I try to give them, I don't want to say homework, but it is homework. I give them homework that you need to take down 5 minutes, in the beginning, turn the TV off, turn the radio off, turn everything, and just talk,
Also listen.
Well, and listen and talk, right.
I think a lot of people have a hard time, like, I hear you talking, like, we're communicating right now, like, it's fine, but actually taking it and setting aside time, even with yourself later, to kind of analyze for yourself, what did this actually mean? What does it mean for me? Is there something I can do better? Is there something we need to work on together? Like, that kind of a thing, too. It's not just in that moment talking it out. It's also, like, homework for yourself in a way,
And communication also has an aspect of self-analysis is what you're talking about. If somebody's communicating something to you in a marriage situation, we're using marriage, but it touches on every aspect of your life. Your communications in your family, communications with your friends, communications at work. The better you have, the better skills of communicating, the more understanding you get, and the more, and I hate using the word productivity, or the more productive that relationship is. Mm-hmm. But in this communication effort, right? Sometimes you need to be able to listen, what you're saying, sit back and hear what they're saying. Not in a judgmental, but are you actually listening to what is being said? Mm-hmm. And are you listening with anger? Because it's something that maybe you don't want to look at, something you really don't want to deal with? Or is it something that you're saying, you know what? He or she is saying something that's important to them. He or she is saying, this could be hurtful to me. This is something that I need you to look at and to understand my point of view in this. And this is the aspect that we didn't talk about last week, was that in a relationship, one of the things that, and you and I talked about this before we went live, was that one of the aspects of relationships, and we're talking about relationships, we're talking about what is due, what the base of what is due in any relationship, and what is given to enhance that relationship. Communication enhances marriage. It's due, yes, but the way you do it can enhance it or
hurt it.
I don't want to say destroy it, but it will hurt it.
No, it could lead to that if it keeps going.
Exactly. But one of the aspects that I did not talk about last week was in a relationship, when you're communicating with somebody, you got two different people or two different situations. And again, it goes into many aspects of your life. You got family, you got friends, you got workers, you got employees, you got your co-workers and different things like that. This one is coming at you with all of this understanding, with all of this point of view. This one is coming with their understanding, their point of view, and they're trying to communicate to each other, but because of their past history, because of their experiences, they believe this about this group, and this one believes this about that group. Mm-hmm. For instance, in a marriage, okay, and we're going to talk about division of duties, right? This one grew up where the wife always cooks. This one grew up where the husband and the wife both cook. Mm-hmm. And she says, it'd be nice every once in a while if you cook. And it's like, oh, no, that's not my job. Right. That's your job. Now you have failed to communicate. You have failed to work on the division of duties, mm-hmm. On laundry, on doing dishes and all this other stuff. There's, when I grew up, when I was growing up, I'll just use me, okay? The guy did the yard work, mm-hmm. snow removal, worked on cars. If the car was broken, you get underneath that engine and you fix the car. You fix the car. Something happened in the house, you fix it.
You don't like working on cars either.
Huh?
You don't like working on cars.
I don't anymore because they got too complicated. Plus, these hands just don't fit in those cars anymore. But we're looking at communication, then we're looking at the duties and stuff like that, and we're looking at this perspective that I came with, the perspective that this other person has. And the way I grew up was the man ruled, Okay, and duties in the house were the woman's. Basically, the division was inside, outside. Outside, guys. Inside, ladies. And that's just the way I grew up. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that was my perspective.
It's a society thing too.
It's a societal thing, right? And it's also cultural.
It is very cultural.
Very
for
cultural.
sure.
But there's also this thing where, as I started realizing the different perspectives, and it was like, you know what? It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't make me any less of a man if I wash the dishes.
Right.
It doesn't make me less of a man if I cook a meal.
It doesn't make me less of a female to go outside and cut the grass once or twice either.
Exactly, or shovel the snow,
Right.
or some women are better mechanics than guys.
True.
You know, and that's fine. But now we communicated that. We've looked at our perspectives. We looked at our what do I want to say, values and mores and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or whatever that is, the way we grew up, and we're saying, you know what, that's how it was.
Traditions.
Tradition. Oh, you know, tradition. You went with that tradition. Okay. I love the movie Fiddler on the Roof, and there's one scene where he's just tradition, you know, and I just, they don't do that to me. Okay. But the traditions that we grew up with, right? You should never be afraid. And listen to what I'm telling you. When you are in a marriage relationship, now, I'm talking about marriage now. I'm not talking about employees. I'm not talking about friendship. I'm not talking about all these things. I'm talking about within a marriage relationship where you say, you know what? Yes, I grew up in this tradition, but I want more than that tradition.
Right.
I want a unity with my wife. I want a unity with my husband. So we're going to bring this out again through communications, through just spending time with one another. You learn each other sometimes without even speaking a word.
A lot. Yeah.
You know, so you have this communications and you're saying, these are my traditions, right? But I see the importance of this.
And also, you got to look at, again, cultural can be one thing, or time period. Okay, back in the day, I'm assuming the moms and the wives weren't out of the house working as much as they are now. You know what I mean? They had
right.
that housewife role was way more common than it is now. So if you and your wife are both working 40-hour jobs, why should she be the one, why should he be the one to cook for you every night, or do the dishes every night, or take care of kids is a big one. I know I don't have them yet. I just have the dogs. But when I hear a father or a mother say, I can't, I have to watch my kids, I have to babysit my kids. You're not babysitting your kids, you're raising your children together. Like, it's never, it should never, in my opinion, again, not having them, should never just be on one person where it's like, this is your duty, this is your side of things. Like, no, this is what you're doing together, is raising this child up. You know, that I just went off on a squirrel moment there, sorry.
No, and that's all, again, a division of duties. That's within that
Yeah.
grouping, because of the times we live in, both parents work
Most of the time, yeah.
more than not.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have this one working, they got this one working. We're looking at, again, the communications of. I know. I think we're still on, but it's got to be reset. I don't know if you guys are hearing me or not, or if you've even seen this, but we're going to continue on this conversation that we are having, and we're going to continue on this communication. And if I get notification that you guys can't see or can't hear, we will slow down and repeat
It's up again.
what we're talking about. Okay, I don't have it, but so we're going to continue on this communication. We're talking about tradition. We're talking about.
I think it comes with, you have to find the balance, as you were talking about, with your, maybe the traditions you were raised with, or the things that you want your relationship to be, or you want the jobs that you want in your relationship, but knowing what your partner may want or not want, or like or may not like, then you have to find that balance, and that balance of, or how you say, the division of duties is going to be different for everybody. You know,
Right.
what works for me and mine won't work for you and yours necessarily.
Right. Again, how you talk to each other is
huge.
important. Are you coming in an overbearing way? And one of the worst things that you can do is in any relationship, but particularly in marriage and in friendship. If you love me, you will do this. If you're my friend, you would do this.
Yeah.
Now you're setting your standards on something that they may not have learned or may not be there at that point yet. I can't even think of a situation. I don't know.
Anything. I that's just, to me, that's wrong to say. Point blank, period. If somebody's using, because to me, I guess I look at it that way. If they're using their love for you or your love for them to get, it seems like a manipulation to me.
It is
to use it.
manipulation. And to be honest with you, if you look at the word manipulation and you find the core of the word, right, it's witchcraft.
Really?
It is. Manipulation and control in certain situations, especially when you manipulate that person by a source or a power that is not, you're abusing it, you're twisting it, right? That's a practice of witchcraft
Wow.
in its core definition. Okay, and people don't like that. I'm not practicing witchcraft. Yeah, you are. When you are manipulating, you're practicing witchcraft.
Right.
So that's, very simple. But again, instead of saying, if you love me, you will do this, right? You say, we need to talk about this because it's not working for me this way. Now it's no longer, I'm going to drive down the point or drive you down to agree with what I say, whether you agree with it or whether you like it or not. This is the way it must be.
Right.
And that is wrong. Except, there's an exception. Okay, the exception is this, and we talked about this, and I know Jeremy will put this thing up there on the board. You will not hit me again.
Oh God, no.
Right, but now it's not. There's no communication. I mean, this is drawing a line in the sand. Excuse me. You don't need to be abused in a relationship.
And that doesn't just mean physical either.
Right. And what I'm saying is there is a line.
Of course.
Where you draw this line instead of, because the communication has failed, and now there is danger. There is an abuse system, right? And in those situations, you got to draw the line and say, no, this will not happen anymore.
Right.
And sometimes you can't say that. Sometimes, and Jeremy put out there some kind of national abuse hotline or something where you can contact people that can get you the help that you need. Because now communication has totally broke down. Now you are in danger. You need to get up and get out.
Yeah.
So again.
That kind of, not to cut you off, that kind of goes into what we were talking about before too. Like, is there something that you owe yourself? To me, you owe that to yourself. You don't allow anybody to hurt you.
Beat you or hurt you or in any form.
Exactly. Not to be abused. And nobody deserves that. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. Any of it. You don't deserve that. You don't stay for that. And people sometimes have the thing where, again, I don't have kids, so I don't like speaking on it sometimes because people are like, oh, what do you know? Common sense in a sense. Like, you don't stay there because of the kids even. Because that's not healthy for them to witness, whether it's happening to them or not. They still might see that and grow up thinking something like this is acceptable or normal. You know what I mean?
Kathy is watching.
She said hello. She said, good evening, darling.
But many, I must say weeks and maybe months ago, she asked for more tools. Now, we're talking about marriages in particular right now, but the tools that we're talking about are tools that you use in relationships. There are some things that are obligatory in relationships, and there are some things that are the icing on the cake, if you will, where you're actually giving more than what is due. And in a marriage, you have to give more than what is due. You should give more than what is due.
You should want to, in a way.
I was just going to say, you should want to give more than it's due. And the base is this, where you give each other, you say each other, I love you once a week. Or you give each other a little peck once a week or whatever. Or you don't call, or you call each other or leave cards or some kind of saying, I'm thinking about you, like once a week, if that.
Right.
There's a lot of people that don't do that. The base is whatever the base is for you, but your base should never be your target. Your target should always be more.
Right.
More communications, more unity, more support, more understanding, more affection, more consideration, more forgiveness, more patience. We get in situations a lot of times where it's like, we talked about this and they still don't got it. And it's like, when are you going to learn this? And it's like, I don't know. It's like I'm not trying to do this, but sometimes I'm just not bright enough to catch it. I need some time to get this understanding of what is going on here and stuff like that.
Or even to get into a new habit. If it's something that you've never done before, because you haven't been exposed to it, or you never had been with somebody that wanted this or whatever. You know what I mean?
And this goes back to that tradition too.
Yeah.
If I was raised in this tradition, right, and you need me to not be this way because it's not working for us, right, then I need to learn to, now I don't want to say necessarily break this tradition, but move from that tradition.
You have to be flexible.
Flexibility. It doesn't make you, and I said this before and I'm going to say it again, it doesn't make you less of a man if you cook, clean, do the dishes, and raise the kids.
I agree. I was just going to say, though, you should never go into something thinking or expecting to change somebody.
Say what?
Changing somebody as in, I do the dishes every day. This person does them every couple of days. That's a small thing. That's not changing a person. That's changing a habit or a practice or a way of thinking. Mm-hmm. If you think you're going to change somebody's core personality, who they are, what they believe in, good luck. And I don't know that you should. If it's something hurtful or harmful, I get it, but I think women a lot of times in particular, and I don't like stereotypes, but look for a fixer-upper. I can fix that. I can deal with that. I can help them. I can fix them. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to, going above and beyond and doing that extra cooking a meal, doing that's admirable, and it should be done. It should be looked at, but not, I don't like that you believe in God. I don't like that you know what I mean? A core belief of somebody. If you're dealing with that kind of stuff too, you need to analyze that as well for yourself and for that person.
Right. So in this communications aspect of unity, okay, we talked about quite a bit of this in communications, and especially in the sharing of traditions, the sharing of yourself, the openness that should be part of your marriage, and not just your marriage, but also in your friends, your family, and other situations. Like I told you before, what we're going to be talking about can relate to any aspect and any relationship that you have within your scope of your world and stuff like that. So communication is a key. It is part, and it is something that is due.
I'd say it's paramount.
It's paramount, yes. And it really, there's no other way of getting around it. And some of the aspects that you need or should apply with this communications is try to get an understanding of what is really being spoken without the prejudices of tradition, without the prejudices of opinions, and just listen to what they're saying. If they're saying, I need this, right? if it's not something that causes you to sin, then you should consider doing it. Just because.
It's almost like, it's going to sound cheesy, but almost trying to listen through their ears and not your own as you're like analyzing what they're saying to you.
Right.
Like to me, it sounds like, oh, you want to go to the stupid movies again. Stupid movie. Like how you gave the
Right.
example earlier. But to them, this is like, this is something I really enjoy. It's something that I want to do with you. That might be what they're really trying to tell you. And all you hear is, stupid movies. Try to like listen from their perspective. Whether you agree or not, understanding and agreement can be two different things.
One of my uncles, many years ago.
Sound like grandpa.
Yeah. But
Sound like grandpa. Many years
many
ago.
years ago.
Way back.
Yeah, way back. He told me, and he said this. He goes, when you're married and this person likes doing this or that, like maybe going to a baseball game, maybe going shopping, maybe going to a play or whatever the situation is, and you constantly say no, or you don't want to do it or whatever. And he told me, he goes, eventually they'll find the one that wants to.
True.
Or they will get such a resentment for you, and such a resentment turns toward hatred, where now that loving relationship that you have is not a loving relationship at all. It is basically a union of two individuals that don't know how to get out of it. And maybe don't want to, and I get that, but instead of trying to fix it, they're stuck with it. And there's a lot of people that are stuck in marriage and don't know how to go about fixing it. That's when you seek out some help. That's when you talk to other people who have been successful. That's when you reach out for counselors and stuff. And then I'm going to tell you this. Don't just reach out to a counselor just because you need a counselor. Reach out to somebody who's been successful. And reach out to some of the ones that can give you the tools and the methods and the ways in which you can actually make a better communication system between each other. So communication, again, has the aspect of understanding. Communication has the, when I say understanding, it also takes into regards respect and honor.
I was going there next.
Okay, you have to respect that person, even if you don't agree with them, even if you don't like what they're saying. Because of your love and because of your respect, you are willing to listen.
I think that's a big one, not just in marriages. That one's universal.
Right. And all of these are universal to me.
Yeah, for sure. Because especially, think of when you're at work.
I was thinking about work just now, yeah.
Even your friendship.
Yeah.
Friends. Like, there's things that you're never going to see eye to eye with the people you work with or your friends or whatever. But you have to have that common respect for each other if you care about them and want to keep that relationship, to agree to disagree when you have to be able to talk about both sides respectfully. Whether you agree or not, at least you can see their perspective and understand it. Because if everybody only thinks like you or only sees your side, like, how do you grow at all? You have to be able to see another person's point of view or perspective. Whether you agree with it or not, then at least you'll understand maybe why they think that way, or, you know what I mean?
And you also have to have an ear and an eye to hear and to see what is not being spoken. And you brought up the thing with kids. Okay, when you have a relationship and you have kids involved and stuff like that, sometimes mama needs a break. Sometimes dad needs a break. You know, and when they are the primary caregivers and they don't get that, right? They start getting wore down. They start feeling all of these things, sometimes even neglected. Sometimes they start feeling overwhelmed. And sometimes you need to say, you know what, honey, I got them today. I'll do this. And even go as far as to set something in place for her or him. Like, hey, I got you some tickets for you and your brother to go to this basketball game. Because you need to get out.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with the wives. Set up something for them to do something with their sisters, with their family, with their friends, and say, honey, today, you have the day off. It sounds terrible because you never have a day off when you're a parent.
No, but you need to keep your sanity.
It's not only for sanity, but it's refreshing. It's a invigoration, if you will. It's just something you just get dog tired.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you have little ones, and they're always pulling and stuff like that. Now, all parents love their kids,
Of course.
okay? But sometimes those kids can drive you nuts. You know,
They're mini
and
yous, they know the
they
buttons.
can get on your last nerve,
And dance on it.
right? Okay, I don't know about dancing on it, but you know, and that's just a natural response to certain situations. But when you have a partner that you have a good communications, or that has an eye to see, or an ear to hear, right? And you look at this person and say, you know what, I need to give her some time off. I need to do this, or I need to give him this. You know, yeah, it's going to be a burden on you, and not necessarily a burden, but you're taking on a little bit more of a duty. You're giving more of yourself in this relationship, and that's what we're talking about: giving more than what is due. Okay, so we're looking at all of these things. We're looking at communications. You have to have understanding. You have to have respect. You have to have eye to hear, eye to see, and an ear to hear.
Your other daughter must have heard or saw something. She says, sounds like you're planning a girls' trip for your wife and daughters.
No. Who knows? Now I'm thinking about it. But again, communication is key. And again, we talked about certain aspects of communications. There's still more aspects of communications. You can also look at the ways people communicate. There is a book, it's called The 5 Love Languages, by Gary Chapman, I think is the title, as the author. And he describes how this person shows love by doing this. This person shows love by doing this. And when you see and understand the trait that this is how this person is showing love. You may not agree with it, but you understand it.
And I think sometimes it's subconscious for people too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if your thing is, I make sure Scott has food every day, or something simple like be safe driving home, like that kind of thing. It's not, and I love you. It's not this, but it is subconsciously how you show your love for somebody.
Right. So again, there's different elements within communication. Okay. I want to switch over to support, because support is not necessarily communication.
Okay.
Would you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay. Support. You got 2 people. Okay. How do you show support to somebody?
There's a lot of things. One that popped into my head is if I'm just using me as an example this time, I guess. If I'm freaking out about something financially,
Okay.
and Scott will go into fix-it mode, not verbally to me, but figuring out how to handle this, how to do that, or how to just calm me down when I'm in a panic mode. Sometimes, whether it's financial or whatever. Sometimes helping somebody figure out how to fix something can be support. Sometimes shutting up and not trying to fix anything, but just listening and giving you that hug and reassuring you that it's going to be okay, that you're there together, things are going to calm down. That's another form of support. It kind of, both of those are big.
That emotional support is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like they're not asking you to fix this right now. What they're saying is, I'm hurting right now. And
Or scared or
scared
panicked or whatever.
right. So in some aspects they're not saying I need you to take this over. In some aspects it is. There are times where they're saying I need you to do this, and because you want to support this person, you take on that burden. Okay? But those are
Or responsibility.
Or
It's not always a burden.
right, responsibility or accountability, whatever it is. So you can show emotional support, but you have to be able to realize it.
Samantha said, listen, take, and give advice.
Listen, what?
Listen, take, and give advice. To take advice and give advice, that can be forms of support.
This is my daughter Samantha saying this. Listen, take, and give
Advice.
advice. Wow. I totally agree with it, but how do I,
Sometimes things are easier to say than it is to do.
thank you. But we all do that.
Of course.
And I'm just messing with Samantha because she knows I love her, and I listen to her all the time, even when she's abusive to me. Actually, it's all in jest. Everything, when I start saying stuff like that, it's meant in jest, and it's how we play in my family, with my daughters and my son. We kind of play. I don't want to say it's rough.
It is.
But we play sarcastically as well.
That's what I told Scott when I first kind of brought him around. I said, if we don't pick on you, and it's not hurtful picking, but if we don't pick on you, we probably don't like you that much.
Yeah. No, that's true. I lost my train of thought now. Oh, we're talking about support.
Yes.
Okay, we're talking about emotional support. You don't have to understand it.
Right.
If somebody is hurting or is in a crisis situation or just in a situation where their emotions are raw, right? Sometimes it's just sitting there and letting them vent. Sometimes it's just sitting there, letting them cry, and just sometimes putting your arm around them or whatever it is to show they're not alone.
I saw this video, Facebook, whatever. I saw a video, and it was like, this is something I would do, or something that I would actually love to have done. It was, it looked like a girl either going to see her sister, her best friend, whatever it happened to be. And it was like a security camera video on their house. This girl's literally laying in her driveway in the rain, just laying there flat out in the rain. And you see the other person roll up in their car, stop in the driveway, just get out, didn't even shut the door, just got out, laid right next to them in the rain and just held their hands. To me, that is perfect. It's not always that you have to fix it or take it on. It's not always, sometimes you just need somebody to lay there with you. Or like you said, whether I understand why you're laying here in the rain or not, whether I think it's silly, whether I think it's, whatever. I'm going to lay here in the rain with you for a minute.
And one of the worst things you can do, and Samantha put on there, and I love this, sarcasm is our love language.
She's not wrong.
And that's not in the book, but it can be a whole chapter about sarcasm. It's because we love each other, and we're able to play with each other in sarcasm.
And sing happy songs.
And do all kinds of. They're just talking about a whole bunch of stuff in our past where they used to basically
beat you.
In many forms, Well, I had my moments too, though. But the gorilla, for instance, we'll talk about that. We'll share that with you guys on another day. But the emotional support. One of the worst things you can do is to belittle it and saying, you just need to grow up. You need to put your big boy pants on and some of the other things that people say now, you need to suck it up and stuff like that. You don't know what they've experienced. You don't know how they got to this point. And instead of making your judgment upon them, right, before you open this mouth and hurt them more by putting your thoughts, your understanding on it, maybe you just need to hold their hand or to stand in the rain with them and give them that reassurance you're not alone.
Right.
Again, going back to your unity, the aspect of unity, right? And that's one of the things that I strive to tell people is when one partner is weak, the other one can be strong for them. And when the other partner is weak, you can be strong for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to fix it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to say things like, well, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Sometimes it's just, I'm here with you.
I agree. Can I add on to that? Because I completely agree with that. I also think sometimes, though, there comes a time when you have to, not in those words ever, not hurtful, not belittling, but kind of help somebody realize if it's doing something where you're enabling them to keep staying in this spot or in that low or in that pain, or you keep enabling it in a sense, or I know what I'm trying to say. I just can't get the right words.
But then you can encourage them for growth.
Yeah.
You could present something and saying, okay, honey, I know this is, but it does you no good to stay in this position.
Yeah, or what we've been doing
Or
hasn't
how
been helping. What can we do differently to try to get this?
now you're communicating. Now you are opening up possibilities for change and for growth. Instead of using a battering ram, you're coming at them with, let's work on this together.
Right.
Because I see the pain that you're going through. I can feel your hurt, right? And the way you're dealing with it, and don't say it that way, you got to be more tactful, if you will, and saying, what about if we do this? Now, look at the word I just said, if we can do this, not you.
Right.
Now, there's going to come a time where they got to do it for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right? But what you're doing is you're building them up. You are undergirding them and saying, yeah, you may be standing alone in this particular situation at your workplace. I'm not there with you physically, but I'm there with you always.
Right.
Right? And when you are dealing with this knucklehead that's causing you pain and hurt, instead of responding in this manner, maybe if you respond this way, it might get you a different result. I'll give you an example. I have people who don't like me. And
No.
Yes, true. Yeah, I know it's shocking, but it's true. And I had people that were belligerent. And what I started to do with certain individuals is, hey, would you like a cup of coffee? And usually it's like, no. Okay. Or I'll make sure that I say hello to them or good morning to them.
I've seen you do that. You wear people down.
I wear them down, right? I'm not pretending. What I'm saying is we can work together differently. It doesn't have to be this. We're not going to ever be buddies. We're not going to hang out and grill some burgers and hot dogs and have a beach party or anything like that. But there's no reason why we can't work together in a respectful, honorable way so that our relationship doesn't cause either one of us more pain anymore. So there are certain things you can do, but this person who is emotionally vulnerable, right? It's like, I can't do that. Well, there are certain things you could do. As you walk by him, good morning. And people will say, well, that's fake. What is fake about trying to be, how do I say this? I'm going to just say godlike.
Right.
What is fake about being more respectful, more honorable than maybe that person?
And it goes down to what your intentions are too. If you're going by and saying good morning, just because you know to get a rise out of them to like piss them off or whatever, well then yeah, that's not cool. That's just stupid. It's childish. If you're going to honestly just try to bridge the gap a little bit, if you will, or whatever, then that's different. Whether it feels genuine, like you said, we're not going to be hanging out and you're my bestie now, but.
Right. And one of the things you can do, and it drove Samantha crazy, was when you show kindness to somebody who may not be a very nice person.
Oh, it's hard.
Right?
Oh, it's hard.
Just showing kindness, like shoveling their driveway or doing something. And
I got a good one for you.
Okay.
Those lines. So I've been known to have a temper. It's gotten better as I've gotten older. But when I hired in at GM, I was 18, just turning 19, and I had a even bigger mouth and shorter fuse, believe it or not. So I remember the one time I had cursed out the guy that I work with, and we were almost getting to the point of, I thought I was gonna hit him in the head with a chair. I called Dad and I told him, what had happened because I didn't want him to hear about it from somebody else. And he says, you have to apologize, right? No, I don't apologize. Nope. You have to. It just kept sinking in, like, you need to apologize. You need to apologize. And I wanted nothing to do with it. But I came in the next day going to apologize. It didn't work out so well because he was a butthead. But that's a whole nother story. But it's that taking that step to be kind to somebody that you don't want to be kind to sometimes, that is more beneficial, not just for that person, but also for yourself.
Yep. I have to apologize. I was just told that my clicking of the pen could be heard, and not only heard, but it could be annoying. So I'm putting my pen down. But what we're talking about can be employed and used in many, many relationships that you have in your life. Figuring out what is the base or what is due is a starting point. It's not your finishing point, especially if you're a Christian. If you are a Christian, you are expected to be more. You're expected to be a giver. You're expected to give hope and to give life and to give truth in a manner in which it is infused with love. Mm-hmm. Not with judgment, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with love. What is the scripture? What is it? The Mark chapter 15, I believe it is. I wrote it down in my notes. Matthew chapter 9. It talks about Jesus, and he was eating at one of Levi's house, and the tax collectors and the sinners came in a large group, and the Pharisees were watching him, and they're saying, they were talking to their disciples. It's like, hey, your boss here is sitting with tax collectors and sinners. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't going to condemn them there. Mm-hmm. Now, there is a right and a wrong in life, right? But he was being a friend to them first.
Right.
He didn't say, I agree with your lifestyle. He didn't say, I agree with your sin. What he's saying is, I want to be your friend. I want to have that relationship with you. And as you said, sometimes when you have these contrary people, right, you have to be the friend first. Mm-hmm. You have to make the first step first. And if you are the one that is causing issues because of your traditions, the way you were brought up, and these other things, sometimes you need to look at yourself and you say, you know what? I'm not showing friendship. I'm not showing compassion. I'm not showing understanding. I'm not showing these things that is really who I am.
And how can you honestly expect change or betterment if you're giving hate? How could that be possible? If you don't show love, it's not going to happen.
Right. So we looked at communications. We're looking at support. There's many, many ways you support people. One of the also ways that you support, I thought we would get a lot further down the line on this, what is due and what is more than your base, mm-hmm. right? With this marriage aspect of it. But it's not just marriage, as we have stated several times here. It's not relationships. It's what it comes down to, relationships. What is the base of that is owed or is obligatory in relationship, and what is the more that you can do? Mm-hmm. Okay, the more is better communications, the more is unity, the more is support. One of the things that's really important to me in support is protection. Okay, if I see something is causing, I don't want to just say my wife, but my family or somebody hurt or pain, right? I'm going to try to step into the gap to the best I can and be a buffer mm-hmm. between them and that which is causing them pain or something that can actually cause them some physical harm or some kind of harm. So sometimes where you are in a relationship and you want to support them, that sometimes means that you got to take a protective mode for them. And you got to step in the gap.
Absolutely.
And I'm not always the best at it. I can intimidate a lot of people because of my size and because of the way I carry myself. But I'm not really a bully. I mean, I'm kind of stubborn. I'm kind of stubborn. I'm kind of straightforward in I tell people this: if I see a wall, right, and it's stopping me from going to the other side or going to get that which I need or that which I want, I'm usually not going to go over it or go around it. I'm going to go through it, and that's the way I do a lot of things, But I don't do it to people. I do it to the enemy. I do it to stupid. Because there's a lot of stupid things that go on in our lives, and we're subjected to a lot of stupid things, and it's like, no, I'm not going to deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to go through that wall of stupid and get to the other side. But there are times where if you are supporting someone, you also have to take a guardianship type rule. And when I say guardianship, I'm not talking about you ruling them, but you're going to place yourself as a guard for them.
Right.
And there are some people that are vulnerable for a certain type of attack. And there's some people that when you see this situation and you see that this person is vulnerable, they may have a physical ailment, they may have a physical issue or a mental issue, and people start picking on them, right? You're going to step right in there and say, no, you're not going to do that.
Absolutely. There's another one too where if, say, your husband, your wife, whomever, your friend even, has issues like where their family, their own family or other friends is coming against them and hurting them, and they might not have the courage or the what have you to be able to stand up for themselves or try to stop it. I've seen that before where it's like kind of the ones that are closest to somebody can hurt them the most at times. So even standing up in place of that where it's like, no, I'm not going to let somebody, even if it is family or another friend, like belittle you or hurt you like that.
I'm gonna read this that Laura put out there. What do you do when you have known someone for years, and all of a sudden they tell you they never liked you and criticize everything about you, and then turn around and tell you they love you, and it's their job to teach you what love is because you don't know anything about love. I cut the person off and pray for them. Do you think you would do the same? Okay, I'm trying to understand.
I get it.
Okay.
Somebody that she's known for years, and they turn around and say that they never liked you, they criticize everything. But then the flip side turn around and say that they love you, and it's their job to show you what love is because you have no clue about it.
Wow.
That to me sounds like major manipulation. I don't think, my own opinion, and you can run with it too, because she said she cut them off and prays for them. I can see that as being good, because if it's that kind of manipulation and they're doing things intentionally to hurt you is what that sounds like to me, you shouldn't be around that. I think you're doing the right thing for praying for them as well, but you shouldn't stay in a toxic situation, whether friends, family, work.
But what she also said is I have invested years in this relationship.
Absolutely.
And it hurt me and it wounded me that this person says I never liked you and that they criticize you.
Absolutely.
Okay. What would I do in that situation is a lot of times, and I've had this situation unfortunately happen numerous times in different avenues in my life. And yes, I get wounded. But a lot of times, and Laura, I'm going to be talking to you, and I'm talking to other people as well. Sometimes you have to understand that that is their issue, not yours. And you have to go back and look at yourself. When they say you don't know how to love, and they're going to teach you how to love when they have not even demonstrated it now, when they say, I don't like you, I never liked you, and they criticize you, that's not love.
No, not
That
at
is
all.
not a demonstration of love. That is not giving love. That is a tearing down in a negative form in which they're saying, I'm going to teach you love by slapping you upside your head. That's not showing love. Right? Now, when people have issues and now they're making a judgment on their level of judgment. They're saying, you are this. You don't know how to love. You don't know how to give. You don't know whatever the situation is. Right? They're making it on their standards. Now, what I'm going to tell you, and I'm telling everybody else too, is you got to know yourself. If you know that that is not a true statement about yourself, why would you accept it from somebody?
Right.
Even if somebody who is a friend or family member, right? I've had people tell me, well, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to learn this, whether it be love, forgiveness, whatever it is. And you know in your heart that you have, right? Because you know yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't let somebody make a judgment on you that is false. And you don't move on that false judgment about you and saying, well, you know what? Again, the manipulation is there. It's the practice of witchcraft.
Also using you as a scapegoat.
Huh?
Using you as a scapegoat.
Using you as a scapegoat. But even more so than that, you got to know yourself. You got to know who you are and whose you are. I say that almost every broadcast. Knowing who you are and whose you are. When you know who you are, and when people make a false judgment about you, you say, you know what? They don't know me.
Right.
This is who I am. I am love. I am joy. I am peace. Because the spirit of, and I'm going to preaching now.
That's okay. As long, and I'm not disagreeing, but as long as you're not so stuck in that you can't see when there does need to be change.
Exactly. But I have cut people out of my life for a period of time, right? And then I would revisit it. And yes, prayer and all of this is what is needed, and this is what we should do. But there's also a time for the opportunity of reconciliation, okay? And that's going to come from you. Okay, first of all, you do not receive a charge that is false that try to change you. Push it out. Say, that's not who I am. Push it out.
Right.
And sometimes there has to be a separation of time. A separation, right? Because to continue to receive all of that negativity, continue to receive that attack, right, has a way of wearing you down.
Right.
And not only wearing you down, it can cause you sometimes to start believing the lie.
Yeah.
You know, and as Jennifer said, there are times where you have to reflect and you have to look at it yourself. I was accused one time in particular of being prejudiced and this, that, and everything else. And I heard what he was saying. I didn't believe it, but I checked myself to find out if there was even the remotest possibility that there was a shred of truth within that statement. And I checked myself. I looked in the mirror and I talked to other people. I said, have you seen this in me?
Right.
Right. So one of the things you can do is talk to other people. Do you see this in me? And if they're continually saying, that's not you. You are a loving person. You are a giving person. You are a kind person. Or if they, and whether they're trying to appease you or whether they're telling you the truth.
People that are being honest with you.
Right.
That you trust.
And sometimes you got to go to the ones that you can trust. Mm-hmm. Like, again, mount the walls with the warriors that you know are ready to give you what is needed. Okay? Sometimes when you ask for the truth, you may not like hearing the truth, but still the truth. Okay? And then again, you have to look at it. If there's an area that you have to change or anybody has to change, you go ahead and change it. You work on changing it. You can't change it instantly because it doesn't work that way most of the time, right? But the thing is this. Do not receive a charge, a false charge, and just accept it and move upon it. Sometimes you have to look at it like, you know what? Maybe we need just to separate for some time. But have the compassion enough to understand that they may be going through something and they're attacking you because of something they're going through.
It doesn't make it right.
Doesn't make it right? But we are people of restoration. We are people of reconciliation.
Mom said they weren't very loving, in my opinion. I'd have to agree with that, with what she was responding to Laura had said.
Okay.
And then Laura said, thank you. I did try reconciliation. She repeated it again, so I once again cut her off. I think it might have been for the best in that case until...
Right. Scripture says this. It says sometimes you need to push somebody out for a season. It doesn't say how long the season is. Mm-hmm. If this person is causing you to sin or this person is causing pain and an issue in your life in which it is not based on any truth, a separation is called for. I mean, look at the body according to Scripture. It says that we're all one body, right? But there's a separation between the nose and the foot. There's a distance. We're still in the same body, but there's a distance there, right? But they all work together. If there is like the nose smells smoke, right? And it says to the feet, there's a fire going on. I can smell the smoke. The feet have to work with it, but they're not. The feet is not right up to the nose because sometimes it's stinky. Right. So sometimes the human body or the oneness that we have with one another, there is even within the body a separation.
Right.
And sometimes because something stinks, it's you got to put it from a little bit of distance between you and that.
It's a good analogy.
You like that?
That was not bad.
Okay.
Good.
Let me see. It's okay.
We're running out of time.
Okay. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're a little bit, not a little bit past, but this is our normal time. I really thought we would get a lot farther. I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we put some effort and some time on communications. We put some effort and time about unity. We did talk about the division of duties a little bit and the traditions that you both come with. Look at the traditions. Look at the ones that you can say, yeah, I could agree with this. Or, yeah, this tradition won't work for us. Mm-hmm. Have that open communications to find the proper tradition for the two of you and for your family. The division of duties can be as well as to how we're going to raise the kids. Of what faith are we going to use, or how are we going to do these different things and stuff like that. A division of duties could be your finances as well. One of the biggest issues that marriages have is when they don't have a clear, defined financial, and I don't want to say a plan, but where they say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to pay our bills, this is how we're going to make savings, this is how we're going to spend our monies, and then work at this together, having come to an understanding of this. And the flexibility to make it work for the two of you. And for those when you have the family and you have the kids, there's a sacrifice in there. Sometimes you have to do a little bit more, whatever the situation is. These are all things that build unity. These are all things that build communications. These are all things that build support, the protection, the understanding, the forgiveness. Sometimes just the empathy of saying, you know what, and this is a very, very important, is saying you are not alone. You are not alone. Yeah, you may be hurting. And then also hearing the person's needs and desires and not just brushing it off.
Not judging them.
Or not judging them. Yeah. Again, going back to your traditions and the way you were raised and stuff like that, you say, well, you don't really need that. That's not that important. Maybe to you, right?
Right.
But if it's important to them, it should be kind of important to you. That's all I'm saying. So again, we're going to talk about more of these things. Very well said, Pastor. Thank you to the both of you. My heart is for all of you. I want you to have the best. I want you to have the best families, the best marriages, the best life. Because God gave us the best so that we can have and be the best. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to look at what is the base of the relationships that we have and what can we do the more. I want you to be victorious. I want you to be happy. I want you to be prosperous. I want you to have the best relationships ever, right? You can have these if you employ the principles that are given to us in the Word and by the leading of the Holy Spirit. And what Jennifer and I have talked to you and shared with you today is some of the experiences and some of the knowledge that we have in some of these experiences. But a lot of this is truly based on the Word of God. And you can find that in the Scriptures, and you can find it with different situations in any situation that you have in your life. And when you start doing it His way, right, you're doing it the best way. You do it the most effective way as well. We're going to conclude. I'm going to throw it back to Jennifer in a second. I wish I'm not going to say that. I thought we would be further along because there's so many different relationships that we want to talk about, friendships. We want to talk about our relationship with God as well. And I'm going to propose this thought or this question. Next week, Minister Xavier is going to be sitting on the panel. I don't know if he's going to be alone with me or we may have a third person. But I don't know if we're going to get to it next week. And I'm kind of hoping that we might, but even if we don't, it's okay. And the question I'm going to propose to you, does God owe us anything? And what do we owe God? And those are things that we're going to talk about maybe next week, maybe the week after that, whenever and whatever time that is the appropriate time, leading by the Spirit, we're going to do that. But again, this is all about you. It's all about you, your family, your relationships, and particularly your relationship with God. Because the most important thing that I can ever give you is an understanding of eternity and that you have the choice to choose life or death. And God is offering you life. So in the Deuteronomy, I think it says, I set down heaven and earth as witnesses against you to choose life or death. Then he says, choose life. So, yeah, have anything you want to say?
Just as far as saying you wish we were further, I understand. I would ask you guys, though, if there's more that you wanted to hear or things that we didn't cover, things that you think are owed or what's above and beyond. You can still comment on the video even when it's not live. You can send messages through Messenger. You can post on our wall on God's Coffee Table because like he's saying, your ideas, your thoughts, your issues, whatever it happens to be, is what drives us as well and what gives us the basis to keep going. Yeah, absolutely. So please feel free to continue to comment, to post, to message, whatever you feel comfortable with. And it's also on YouTube as well. We don't have as many people watching on YouTube, but you can always catch them there if you don't want to catch them on Facebook.
Podcasts.
Or in my podcasts. Yes. Right. Yep.
So
that's what I would say.
All right. I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you next week at God's Coffee Table. Have a great and blessed day. And remember, you can be more, and you are more with God. Have a great and blessed day. Good night.